Americans over age 50 are spenders. Over the next 20 years, we'll spend a whopping $20 trillion. That's trillion with a T on consumer goods. But are we spending wisely enough? And are we managing to save enough at the same time? I'm Jean Chatzky, and I know your money is limited, so we'll look at stretching those dollars tonight. You're dialed in to Cash Call. Hi, and thanks so much for joining us on Cash Call, where we talk about life's most pressing money issues for people 50 and over. Of course, we welcome you to this conversation, so please pick up the phone, call me, join us with your questions, your comments. You can reach me right now on our toll-free number. It's 855-550-7588. And just note that is not an 800 number, it's an 855 number. You can also get in touch with me at the show over Twitter, Facebook, Skype, or on email, where I'm Jean at jeanchatzky.com. And you can find all of that information, as usual, at rl.tv. Well, marketers may not target people over 50 as aggressively as they target other age groups. But as you and I both know, that's a huge mistake, because people over 50 are not only spending, they're spending strong. According to USA Today, spending by people over 50 rose 45% in the last decade. So clearly, life doesn't stop at 49. But as our next guest knows all too well, there is a big difference between spending and spending wisely. Stephanie Nelson is the coupon mom. She has taught millions, including me, how to save on groceries, restaurants, online shopping, and much, much more. Stephanie, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's terrific. I have learned so much from you over the years about how to cut my monthly grocery bill, my weekly grocery bill. But now I'm actually hearing that some stores are cutting back on coupons. Is that true?
Well, believe it or not, couponing has become really popular. And I'm thrilled about that.
Go figure.
Go figure. I've been doing it for about 20 years myself. It has become so popular that some stores have had to put some restrictions around couponing. And what is so funny to me is that the restrictions are still far beyond what most people would do. So restrictions at my store, for example, if you are buying multiple units of one item, you can only use 4 coupons, 4 identical coupons. Now, most people would never have one coupon, much less 4 coupons for Tide.
All right, so let's talk about how to do this properly. You say that you have to know your store and know it well.
That's right. I tell people you're going to see people saving hundreds or thousands of dollars on TV with coupons, and you're going to think, I can't do that, it's too hard. And I say, you know, that's inspirational. So you should look at that and say, just become an expert at your one store. Really know how the promotional programs and how the coupon policies work at your one store. And what you'll be able to do is get the best deals on the items you like each week at your one store without traveling around to multiple stores.
And you'll be able to key into the pricing trends.
That's right. You become familiar with what the high and low prices of your common items are. And you don't have to memorize 100 items prices. But just know for your high-ticket items, you know, what's the lowest price on your chicken, the lowest price on steak, the lowest price on your laundry detergent. And when it hits that, stock up on it.
Well, I learned, again, from you that if I wait 5 or 6 weeks, the cycle is just going to turn. So if I want to buy Fresca, because we always have Fresca in my house, I know that every few weeks I'll be able to get 3 12-packs for $10.
That's right. And you buy more than you need that week. There's no reason to have to pay full price one week and half price, especially with items like, for me, it's boneless chicken breast. If it's half price one week, then just buy enough for 2 weeks. And you also see how often it goes on sale.
So your pantry becomes kind of a store.
That's right. And you're not dashing out to the store to get something at the last minute because you have it already.
I want to talk about prescriptions, because this is a new development in couponing. How is this working?
This is amazing to me. I always say, you know, have a coupon mentality. Before you buy anything, go online, Google the name of what you need and the word coupon. You'd be surprised at how many coupons you can find. When it comes to prescriptions, the pharmaceutical companies are being so generous with coupons. So, for example, if you go to the website of a regular prescription you use, you may find a coupon you can get, but not only for one prescription, but for an entire year.
It's amazing. And you save $10, $20, $30 on these prescriptions. You should ask your doctor as well. I want you to stick with me because we are going to come back in just a minute. We're going to answer some viewer questions. Before we take a break, once again, here's how you reach us, including our toll-free number. It's 855-550-7588. It's not easy to cut the fat out of your monthly budget, so this week we break it down. We take a look at 5 line items where you can save yourself some big bucks. Here's a question for you. True or false? Prescription drugs are priced the same no matter where you fill them. Answer: false. In fact, Consumer Reports research has found that the price of prescriptions can vary by as much as $340, so it's always worth it to shop around. Welcome back to Cash Call on RLTV. I'm Jean Chatzky. You know, it really is true that a few conscious decisions about how you live your life can make a huge difference in your bank account. So here are some quick tips that will make all the difference in the world. With gas prices up over $4 a gallon in many parts of the country, you want to think about saving some money on your ride. First thing to do, install a gas price app or find your way to a gas price website. And what they do is point you to the cheapest gas in your area, courtesy of GPS technology and a whole bunch of volunteer spotters. So they're very, very helpful items to have. If you've been in the habit of carrying heavy stuff around in your car, as I sometimes do in mine, get it out of there. It can eat into your miles per gallon fairly quickly. Ugh. 3 things that you need to know to save yourself money on dry cleaning. First, read the label. If it says dry clean only, then of course it has to go to the cleaners. But if it just says dry clean, well, that's more of a suggestion than a rule. Next, you need to know how to treat a stain yourself. Whether you get it on your tie, whether you get it on your pants, you want to know when you have to hand it to the cleaners or when you can take care of it. And generally, if it's a water-based stain, you can treat it yourself. If it's an oil-based stain, you want to send it to the cleaners. Finally, I tell my kids this all the time, just because you wear something does not mean it has to go to the cleaners. Hang it up, air it out, give it a little steam. Often, you're good to go. We all spend a lot of money on our pets, and there are a few things that you can do to trim those bills as well. First, when you go to the vet, ask about discounts. Some vets will give you discounts for bringing in more than one pet at the same time. Second, while you're at the vet, be sure to ask for samples. Just like your regular doctor, vets get a lot of samples. And if your pet needs a prescription medication, ask your vet if they can give you a generic prescription. If you know enough to ask for the generic, you can take it to your regular pharmacy and often save yourself some big bucks. Whether you crave Starbucks in the morning, you're more of a fan of Dunkin' Donuts, or you're loyal to some other brand, chances are pretty good your supermarket actually has it. I did a little bit of a calculation. A bag like this at a warehouse store costs me about $15, lasts me for about a month, which means my coffee expenditures per day are about 50 cents a piece. That is significantly better than the $2 or more I'm likely to spend getting coffee to go. For a recent Today Show segment, I asked people what they felt they were paying too much for. The #1 answer was cable. The thing you want to focus on is the energy that your cable box uses. These boxes are energy hogs. They eat up $3 billion in energy each year, and the most startling fact about that is that $2 billion of it is when nobody's watching or taping anything. So buy yourself a timer so that the cable box can shut off right after you go to sleep and power itself back on before you wake up. You'll save yourself a lot of money each and every year. So that was Teddy, my dog. Clearly, he's a natural.
Very talented.
Making his television debut. I know you give advice on how to save money all the time. What would you add to this list of items for our audience?
Well, I'm always, as I said earlier, I try to have this mentality of, can I find a coupon for it? Can I find a deal for it? Or, you know what, do I even need it at all? So I tend to be pretty selective about what I need and when I'm shopping, and it's amazing how easy it is to find discounts for things you really do need.
I'm a big believer, too, in the purchasing pause. If you give yourself 24 hours before pulling the trigger on anything, often you realize you just didn't need it at all.
That's so true. And especially when you look at, just look at your closet, something that I also believe that many times it makes sense to buy full price when it's good quality. Because if it's something you wear all the time versus the bargain that you never wear, it's a better value.
Absolutely.
And you also talked in your piece, I think, I loved your piece.
Thank you.
There's so many good tips there on dry cleaning. And when I buy clothes, I look to see what the label says. Because it's not just what that dress cost or what that blouse cost, it's if you have to take it to the cleaners,
Yep.
who knows how many times, that really adds up.
Okay, terrific. Let's take some calls. We're going to go to our phone lines. They are open. Again, call us. We'd love to hear your questions, your concerns, your stories about how to manage your money. Karen's on the line. She's joining us from Massachusetts. Hi, Karen. What's your question?
Hi, Jean. I have a question regarding, I have some china, some sterling silver pieces, stamp collection, and old dolls I'd like to sell. And I was just wondering how I would go about getting the fair market value for those items, and where would I go to sell them?
Okay, great question. Karen, the first place I'm going to send you, believe it or not, is the internet. I want you to go to a site like eBay, and I want you to look at what other people are paying for those items. Look at the auctions that have recently ended and try to get a value that compares. Then look for different auction houses in your area that take consignments that will allow you to bring your merchandise in and get a few estimates of what they're willing to give you so that you can make sure that you're getting the fair value. Anything to add to that, Stephanie?
That's fabulous.
Okay.
You just did great.
All right, terrific. Let's go to Facebook this time. This message comes to us from Barbara. It says, any thoughts on pet insurance? Our pups are costing us a lot of money. You know what? If you are the kind of person who knows that if something is going to go wrong with your pup, you're going to spend whatever it takes to get that pup the very best in medical care, then I say go for pet insurance. But you've got to do it when that dog is a pup, because once they are older, once they have a pre-existing condition, it's just like people, often those pre-existing conditions will not be covered. Do you have pets in your house?
I do, and I would also say you want to compare, just like we compare our own life insurance, compare different pet insurance providers.
Absolutely.
But it does make sense in the long run because we didn't get pet insurance for our most recent pet, and of course we've done whatever it takes.
Because they become a member of your family, and there are a lot of very expensive pet therapies these days that can kick in.
And you don't want to leave chocolate chips out.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
There
That's
you
all
go.
I'll say.
Okay, we'll take it from the expert. Let's go to an email. This one comes from Janet in New York, and she writes, I spent a few $100s in November on some dresses to wear to several upcoming weddings. Since November, I've saved more money than I've ever saved before over the same amount of time. Also, I've worn the dresses for various occasions, so I haven't had to go out shopping whenever those events spring up. I think that's a great comment. You know, there is a lot of research that shows when we're dieting, if we splurge just a little bit, selectively, we actually lose more weight. And the same is true, I think, when we're shopping. If we splurge selectively, like you were just saying, if we buy quality when we know we really need something, that will help us.
And I also think she made a good point. She bought it in advance. So I don't know about you, but if I have to get something that for the next day and I'm stressed, of course you're going to overspend. But if you buy it in advance and it's good quality and you might have even had it marked down, you don't have to overspend at the last minute.
Yeah, you plan it out. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here with
Thanks
us.
for
It's
having
been a
me.
pleasure. I hope that you'll come back.
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay, that's terrific. You are all dialed into Cash Call. Stay tuned for our burning question. That's up next. And for more on Cash Call, go to rl.tv. Welcome back to Cash Call. Next up, our burning question. This one came in over Twitter, and the question is, how do I pay less on my cell phone bill? Well, the very best way to save is to make sure that you have a plan that meets your needs. It shouldn't give you more and it shouldn't give you less. Most carriers are only pushing smartphones these days, but if you don't need data, then a bare bones option is still a way to save some money. And if you do need it all, well, data, voice, text, make sure you go over your bill every few months and you look at your usage. If you are constantly falling below your allotment, then reduce the number of minutes on your plan for a month and see how that goes. And here's a secret. If you accidentally go over that month, just call the provider and request a one-time waiver. They'll generally give it to you. Finally, if you are 65 or over and you don't use a ton of minutes, you should know most carriers also have a less expensive plan that is targeted just for you. It'll come generally with around 200 minutes. You can use them anytime. It'll cost about $30, and you can add texting and data separately. And there are always those no contract options if you're not locked into your carrier. They're generally cheaper, and they can be good if you're a very heavy user or a very light one, although you will have to pay more for the phone up front. Great question. So much going on with cell phones these days. And again, our phone lines, speaking of phones, are open. Let's go to Jeffrey. He is joining us from Oregon. Hey, Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jean. Being in our 60s, I've been running some online calculators to see if we're financially ready for retirement. Everyone I've run, ARP, Bank of America, MSNBC, they've never asked about whether you were buying, renting, or what your existing mortgage balance was. Since it is obvious that somebody with a paid-off mortgage would not be paying rent, and with the growing popularity of using a reverse mortgage to backstop your retirement plan, how should one address this in planning for retirement?
Okay, so they don't ask you about the mortgage itself, but they do ask you about how much you expect it will cost you to live each month. And that's a basic way of getting at that question. Because if you've got a paid-off mortgage, your monthly cost of living is going to be significantly less expensive than if you don't have a paid-off mortgage. And if you have a reverse mortgage, your income, because you will be getting income on a monthly basis from that reverse mortgage, will play into that calculation. What I'm trying to say, Jeffrey, is that they do get at the numbers. They just get at them in slightly different ways than asking for it out front. The calculator that I like best, and by the way, I think you should probably use several of them, because they all have sort of different math going on behind the curtain, and you want to get a consensus, you want to get an average. But the calculator that I like best, just for the record, is the Ballpark Retirement Estimator, and you can find that one at choosetosave.org. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in fact, I'll check that out and run a few more.
Okay. All right. Terrific. Thanks so much for the call. Really good question. And now we have a question coming to us over Facebook. It's from Paula in Ohio, and she writes, I'm 64. Is it true that you can't draw Social Security if you make over $14,000 a year? No, Paula, you can breathe a sigh of relief. It's not true. Here's the deal. Once you hit full retirement age, and for you that's 66, you can earn as much income as you want without compromising your benefits. But before that, Social Security is going to deduct $1 for every $2 you earn over $14,640 a year. Now note, you don't lose that money. Your benefit once you get to that full retirement age will be increased to account for benefits that were withheld earlier. So just to show you how this works, let's do a little cash call math. If your gross annual income is $30,000, subtract the $14,640 from that, and you see that you're over by $15,360 a year. Divide that by 2, and you're losing out on $7,680 per year. But again, once you stop working at age 66, or not stop working, but once you hit age 66, that money will start coming back to you. So you don't have to worry about it. And in my opinion, you should keep working if you're enjoying it. It's something that keeps us going. Let's go to our Twitter messages. We have a tweet that says, How many credit cards should one have? We have 10. 8 have $0 balances on them, and the others we use and pay off monthly. Well, let me just say, I think 10 is way too many. I tend to think you need 2. You need one that has a low interest rate so that if you have to pay it off over time, it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. And you should have one, especially if you're a frequent credit card user, that gives you miles or something else. Everything else is something that you can get rid of slowly over time. Just a note, you can always find details about the resources I've mentioned and more information, tips, and video about how to redefine your own life at RL.TV. You're watching Cash Call on RL.TV. We'll be right back with a money rule that you will not want to miss. And now for my money rule of the week. As you may know, I've developed a set of rules to help make difficult decisions a little bit easier and less complicated, to help you get to a simple yes or no. And you can find them all in my new book, Money Rules. So my rule for this week is money rule number 35. Just because you have a coupon doesn't mean you should go shopping. Okay, a confession. Do you know where I got this rule? I was checking on my daughter one night. She was in her room with Nick at Night or maybe the Disney Channel. I honestly don't remember which one on in the background. And a character on one of those shows said that line, just because you have a coupon doesn't mean you should go shopping. And it's true. Whenever we spend, we really need to consider the money that we're laying out and focus on whether it's A, within reason, and B, within the budget before we consider how much we're quote unquote saving. Focusing on the latter will lead us astray each and every time. And finally, what's the payoff for this week? Well, as we learned from coupon mom Stephanie Nelson first, it's up to you to become acquainted with your favorite store's savings programs and how to make the most of them. You also have to understand how you can use couponing to save beyond the grocery store on restaurants, entertainments, and other things. And that's really true. I used a local Groupon offer to get the dirty car that you saw earlier detailed for just $39. Finally, pay particular attention to your pharmaceutical expenditures. There are some really valuable coupons out there for prescription meds that you or members of your family may take. And if your docs don't hand those coupons out, ask for them. Finally, I want to thank all of you so much for joining me on Cash Call. Always a reminder to everyone whose questions we've answered, it's important to do your own research and consult with a reputable financial advisor before making decisions with your money. And remember, if you have a money question, you can call, tweet, Facebook, Skype, or email me. I'll see you next time right here on RL.TV. You can always go to our website, rl.tv, for information, tips, and web-only video.